Hey guys, what is happening? It is Rob from Crypto Bobby, and today is a great day in the crypto world. Basically, everything in the top 100 on CoinMarketCap is in the green, minus Ethereum and OK Cash. There's only two cryptocurrencies in the top 100 that are in the red today, and they're very minorly in the red. So are we finally away from all of this Chinese regulation, Bitcoin ban drama? Are we finally out of the woods for that? Has the market accepted it? And are we going to be moving into, I would say, the next level of kind of the crypto world? Have we gotten out of that recovery, or is there still more to come? Let's talk about that. We'll talk about where kind of I'm looking at things in the near future, kind of what my strategy is, and we'll get into a few more kind of aspects of that moving forward. So let's get started today. Now, if you are new to the YouTube channel, if you are new to the podcast, hit the subscribe button. I would really, really appreciate that. That'd be fantastic. Come with daily videos on the crypto markets, as well as a crypto happy hour live, which I do 2, 3, 4 times a week, just depending upon how often I get free to talk to you guys for an hour or two live and drink some beers with you. So if you are new, hit the subscribe button. That'd be fantastic. But getting into it, let's talk about what's going on in the marketplace today. So over the weekend, really, and for the most part, if we look, the crypto marketplace spiked or really dropped all of last week and had a substantial recovery on Friday. Now, there was a little bit of instability here and there on this weekend where there were some nice up and down movements that were actually fantastic for trading, and I took that opportunity to do a little bit of buys, and then buys, sell a little bit higher, and then buy back lower. You can kind of see here some of the different entry points that I had over the course of the weekend on Bitcoin. But it was a nice weekend to see. I was a little bit hesitant to see if we were going up or down. I got a couple different questions about people of, is this recovery for real, or is the recovery not for real? Is this a dead cat bounce, as people like to say? And a lot of people are asking as far as, what is the market going to actually do? I think at this point in time, it's looking a little bit like the market is starting to shrug off a lot of the news around China. It's kind of coming. It's the market and people, whether they're buying or they're trading Bitcoin, are looking, and other cryptocurrencies have kind of accepted this news. A lot of the volume from China is apparently now moving to Japan and some other exchanges as well. So there's been some type of movement of volume as well. But it looks to me like, at least from a sentiment perspective, people are just at the point now where there was last week, there was certainly, if we're taking a look here, people were certainly freaking out about China. There was a lot of news in regards to, a lot of negative news in regards to China, in regards to regulations. People are selling and people are selling. I took that opportunity to buy back in at a lower price point. The one nice movement I had a order set at was 3,075. I got in at that rate, which was fantastic. It looks great right now. That was one of the orders I had set. I had a couple set a little bit lower, under 3,000, in case we even dipped farther, but that didn't happen. So that was what it was. But 3075 is a pretty damn good number to, in my opinion, to acquire, especially if we're looking now coming up on 4,000. It's a pretty damn good number to be acquiring at least in my opinion. But looking at how things are, I think that there's going to be a certain point. People are still going to talk. There's still going to be negative news in regards to China, but when it comes down to it, I think the majority of people are basically just throwing up their middle finger and saying, what, screw it. We don't really care about it anymore, and we're going to move past this. And this isn't affecting, like I said before, it's not affecting the. It's going to make it more difficult for people in China to acquire Bitcoin if they want to acquire it, if not damn near impossible. But my idea of carrier pigeons with USB sticks, the ICO is still pending for that, so keep an eye on when that happens. But it's going to be, all jokes aside, it's going to be a little bit harder for people, or a lot harder for people, to actually acquire Bitcoin in China. But outside of that, I'm sure people are going to be able to do it if they really want to do it. But where I'm looking at things in the near future here, and kind of what I'm expecting to happen, is if we can break 4,000 here, that could lead to potentially a nice nice little bit of a movement up, maybe to 41, 4,200 is kind of what I'm hearing from a number of people that do a lot of TA. Is kind of the next level of resistance is about 4,200, 4,250. So we'll see if we can break 4,000 here. I think that's a psychological mark. And if Bitcoin can break 4,000, I think that'll be something to keep an eye on. Now, outside of Bitcoin, one of the big movements here today, and you can see it, is Ethereum. And Ethereum is up, while Bitcoin is up about 9%, Ethereum is actually up about 15%. And if we even look at the ETH to BTC ratio, it's had a really nice spike and is leveled off a little bit. But when we're looking at ETH to the US dollar, it's pushing 290 and it's gone up a little bit against 290. But for Ethereum, there's a lot of there's some news and technical driven focus that I think is going to happen now. Now, Ethereum typically for the most part has been, while it had a decoupling from Bitcoin back in June and had a really nice run from an ETH to BTC ratio, it's kind of leveled off around the 0.07, 0.08, 0.06, kind of that between 0.06 and 0.08 for a number of time. But if Metropolis gets rolled out, and I believe if we search here, Metropolis is getting rolled out to the test network of the testnet on Ethereum. If that is executed properly, I think there's a lot of, while Bitcoin has a lot of utility and I believe function as a store of value, and there's some other components to it, obviously Ethereum is, in my opinion, it's not necessarily meant to be just a store of value. There's a lot of technical aspects to it. There's a lot of utility around Ethereum, and I think Ethereum has come up against some limitations from a scaling perspective that people are not necessarily displeased about, but I don't think they expected it to happen so quickly. So Ethereum and the developers there have been working, it seems like pretty damn hard, to make sure that they can roll out these changes around the Ethereum network with Metropolis, with Raiden, and ensuring that Ethereum can properly scale. Right now, I believe it's at about 7 transactions per second, which is an issue when you have big popular ICOs in the network. If there was ever a seriously large distributed application on Ethereum, there's not really massive ones right now. I mean, there's certainly utilized dApps on the network, but if we want to get to the point where there's a really, really large popular distributed application on the network, the Ethereum network is going to have to scale. It really couldn't handle that right now. It's not production ready. Metropolis can certainly help with that. So my thought process now is that if and when Ethereum can roll out these technical advancements and improve scaling, the price is going to move with that in a positive direction. I think in some cases, a lot of people have said, is that priced in? I don't think it's priced in yet, because I don't think a lot of people necessarily believe. I think it's kind of a believe it when they see it type scenario. Yeah, it might be priced in a little bit, but if Ethereum can roll out these changes in an effective manner, I think that's going to be huge for the price of ETH, in my opinion, because it's so much more of a technically focused coin, and the scalability here and how ETH can actually be utilized is going to make a big damn difference to the actual usability and the viability of Ethereum as a, not just as a cryptocurrency, but as a platform, as a center for distributed applications, as a center for ICOs, whatever it might be. The more scalability it has and the more improvements that are done to Ethereum, the greater utility and the greater price, I believe, will happen. So I'm looking at Ethereum as a place. I was really bullish on ETH back in August. It obviously took a massive hit so far in September, dropping from 400, pushing up against 400. You can zoom out here a little bit, pushing up against 400 or so to all the way down to close to, I snagged some at 206, I believe, around there. And then snagged a bunch at 240, 250 once I saw things stabilize. So I am a believer in Ethereum. I think long term that it has a lot of utility. I think it's a different type of play than Bitcoin in a lot of respects, but I think for me, Bitcoin and Ethereum look to be, in my long-term view, two of my top holdings, and are right now as well. Ethereum and Bitcoin, I think, are, Bitcoin is kind of that store of value for me. It's something that I think a lot of people are just going to continually put money into because they think it's going to be the gold of the future. Ethereum to me is kind of the computing platform of the future, or potentially the computing platform of the future, and really a way to not just decentralize currency, but decentralize computing and a lot of other aspects of the internet that we know at this point in time. So I'm excited to see what ETH will do here. Again, you can see at these green arrows, that's kind of an area where I made some moves here. So certainly confident myself personally with where Ethereum might go and how it can move forward here. But I would keep an eye on Metropolis, how that testnet rollout is going, and keep your eyes kind of peeled as far as when announcements might be made on the actual performance of that. Because if Metropolis rolls out, if Ethereum can scale, if you're looking at 50 transactions or 100 transactions per second as opposed to 7 transactions per second, I think you're going to see this 400 number here, and I think it's going to get blown out of the water. Quite frankly, that's my opinion, but that's just me speaking. Now, outside of that, overall, like I said, this has been a fantastic day in the marketplace. Really, it's basically been, at least in the past 24 hours, it's pretty much been impossible to not make money in cryptocurrency unless you've been doing, I don't know what the hell you've been doing, but it's basically been impossible to lose money in cryptocurrency the past 24 hours. So looking at a couple different things too, I mean, just giving you some idea of some crypto that I'm keeping an eye on. So OMG, Omise Go, is one that I think is held up. I'm a holder of OMG, but I think it's held up extremely well in comparison to a lot of other crypto within the month of September. And I think that bodes well for what happens if Bitcoin gets back to an all-time high, if ETH gets kind of moving in the right direction as well. So OMG, I think, is kind of, it seems to me like it's in a nice springboard position where it can really kind of pop off if we get into if we kind of get out of some of this bearish pattern that we're in September. It looks like we're getting out of it right now, but OMG is one I'd keep a watch on because it's held its value pretty nicely, and it's still close to it's maybe 15-20% off its all-time highs, but still that's pretty good in comparison to a lot of other cryptos out there that are 30 or 50% off their all-time highs right now. So I'm holding OMG. I would keep an eye on it. I think even now it's potentially a good spot to acquire OMG. Another one that I'm somewhat interested in as well, Monero, is with Monero, all-time high of around 150 or so. It's only up maybe 6%. I've talked about privacy coins in the past. I think there's a couple different ones that I'm evaluating right now, but Monero is attractive at under $100 right now per XMR. So Monero, it's only up 6% in comparison to a lot of other cryptos out there today. I'm keeping an eye on Monero. That's another place. And then outside of that, those are some of the kind of big ones I'm looking at. One that I get a lot of questions about is Neo. And I've talked about this before, and I'll certainly talk about it again. There's nothing that I have against Neo. I was a holder of Neo. I bought Neo at about $6, and then back when it was Ant shares, traded it or sold off my profits for it when it was at about $38. Right now, it's not a crypto that I am super into at this point in time for me personally. But that could certainly change depending upon how things go. But for me right now, when people ask, I'm not in on Neo just because of a lot of the Chinese regulation uncertainty and how that was supposed to be, the ETH of China. If there is no cryptocurrency in China, it can't really be the ETH of China. But we'll see how that progresses. For me personally, though, I'm not going to make another move back into Neo, at least for now or for the foreseeable future. I think there's, for me, in my mind, better places to have your money go to work than within Neo. But outside of that, guys, and girls, it's been a great day for the past 24 hours. I'm looking at There's been a fantastic move in Ethereum. If you've been holding Ethereum, obviously, like I've said, that's been great. I would keep an eye on that, especially ahead of these technical advancements. I don't know if Ethereum can outperform Bitcoin in the long run, but I think there is a possibility for Ethereum to outperform Bitcoin within the next month or two and get above its all-time highs of around $400 or so if the Metropolis rollout is successful and they can solve or improve, not necessarily solve, because I think it's always a work in progress, but improve upon the scaling issues. And I also look at Bitcoin as well as a place of, looking at Bitcoin now as if it can get above $4,000, can it sustain above there? And then can we just make it continue to move up and kind of shake off a lot of this negative China news? So continuing to take a look at that. Outside of it, you can kind of see with these green arrows on Bitcoin and on Ethereum, those were some different entry points that I had, or re-entry points as well, when I was looking at this China news. So I was happy about a lot of the limit orders that I had, a lot of the limit buy orders that I had in place on GDAX this weekend, pretty much all filled, which was great to see. It was a great weekend in the market for me. I hope it was for you as well. So let's keep an eye on how things move from here on out. If you guys have any questions at all, please let me know. If you have any thoughts on what is going on in the crypto world, happy to answer those as much as possible. But right now, I think it looks like, to me, just kind of summing up the conversation, looks like for the most part we're out of the woods from the Chinese regulation perspective. A lot of the China news seems to be put behind us. We seem to be, people seem to be pretty satisfied as far as some of the resolutions that people have been able to put forth. So I'm happy about it. I'll see where it goes. Could another negative shockwave come? Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Could more regulation from somewhere else come? Absolutely. But for right now, it seems like things are on the up and up. We'll have to take a look at that. We'll have to, be aware and always keep your finger on the trigger as far as things go. But looking forward to seeing how things continue to develop. If you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Rob from Crypto Bobby, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a fantastic day, whether you're buying, trading, holding, selling. Good luck. Peace.